What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa. Of course, Justine is right there with me, and this is episode 125. Today in the show, I was joined by Pete Clark of Palamino. I would love to say that I just discovered them from being in New Jersey, but I didn't. It was TikTok. Whether we love it or hate it, I think it is a great tool to find bands, and I'm very thankful for that tool, although I do have my gripes about it, as we all do. We obviously talk about growing up in New Jersey. What was that like? I think for me, being a transplant and moving here, obviously loving the history of the New Jersey music scene. Anytime I get to talk to anyone, much like Ryan in the previous episode, I love to dive into that, how it's so special to them growing up here versus me just now getting into it. So that was really cool. We obviously dived into a connection of 311 and how a lot of people had their opinions of 311, but it was an important part of Pete's musical journey and path. We obviously talk about their song See You in My Dreams, which was something when I saw on TikTok and what the song was and hearing Pete talk about it, I knew it was really great to dive into this, not only to get more listeners to the song, but also to really like music and mental health. Grief is a part of that. And I think a lot of us face grief. So hearing Pete talk about how he's used music to help cope was really, really beautiful. We also touch on a song, Might Die, which is out now. And I think hearing Pete talk about that song and then hearing it, it was really, really special opportunity. But all links below to check out Pete and Palomino. I really would love to send some support. You know, this show is all about that. So here's our conversation with Pete Clark from Palomino. It was one of those days where I woke up and I'm like, I did not feel, I think it's the heat, man. Cause here I'm like,
Dude, it's hot. It's really
I
hot today.
did not feel good. And I'm like, not today. I'm not canceling. Pete,
Yeah.
again, we have been trying since
Well, I
December.
appreciate that.
I'm not doing it. We're
Yeah, no,
hanging
I
in
hear
there.
you. Yeah, for
But
sure.
we're
I
good
hope you
now.
feel good.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just,
the heat's been making me feel like nauseous pretty much like all day. It's crazy.
that's what happened with me this morning. And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right. And even like an hour ago, I'm like, I know it's the heat. Like, I know I'm good. I'm like, I'm battling. We're going to do this. Justine, too.
Yeah.
We're going to battle through this. And because I've been
Yeah.
looking forward to this, where I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
not, but yeah. So I appreciate because I did. I looked back at the emails. I think it was like December.
Yeah, well, it's been a wild, like 6 months,
Yeah.
personally for me. So I'm sure you've had some
Oh,
things going on. So,
oh,
I'm glad that we stuck to our guns and
yeah.
here we are.
How, like, health wise, too, like, how were you doing? Because I know that was a part of it. It wasn't just
Yeah.
like we were, hey, whatever. But every time I saw you post, I'm like, oh, I hope he's doing
Yeah.
okay. I want to reach out, but I also am like, what if he's not doing good? And then I'm sitting
Yeah, I
there
gotcha.
like, hey, so how is
Yeah.
everything?
Everything's great. I actually just had a follow with my doctor this morning, so things are doing pretty good. I'm pretty much all healed up. I had surgery about like I don't know, yeah, like 3 months ago now. And it was a lot, but I'm back at it. We've been ripping shows and playing shows again, which honestly it's just like I'm just so happy. Because like sitting in the hospital, I never thought that I'd be able to again. There was so much uncertainty. So I'm just glad I get to be doing that. We played Brooklyn on Friday, and that was super cool. So just happy to be back out there.
Very different situation and never like to compare them, but like my fiance, when we were in the hospital, he was in for like 30 something days, a lot. And it's
Yeah,
like almost like that feeling when you're in the hospital watching him go through that, although I didn't, but like where's the end of that? When do you get to
right.
get back to what you want to do? And it was hard on him. I can't imagine what that was like for you. And just like, I'm so glad you're back out there because watching
Thanks.
someone go through that, that was so hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. It was yeah, not knowing I think was the hardest part. Like, my doctor's like I remember we had like the biggest show that we were ever gonna play with the
Yes.
front bottoms, the Champagne Gym, and like a week before it, it's like doctor's like, yeah, I don't know if that's gonna happen for you. And I just kind of like hearing that, it's like, what 5-year-old me was dreaming about of like a
Mhm.
show that like you're playing, you're working yourself up to play something like that, and then something like this just to happen out of nowhere. It's just crazy. But
Oh,
but feeling good. So that's the
yeah.
most important thing, right?
I'm glad because yeah, it's stuff like that. I know Justine too, you deal with health stuff. Like everybody does right now. And especially it just is
Right.
one of those things where you're like, you just got to get through it.
Hmm.
And again, I can't imagine. Like again, watching someone alone, I couldn't ex imagine experiencing it. And again, like, oh, you're back at it. We're here.
Right.
It
Yeah, for
sucks that
sure.
it's like 10 million degrees outside right now everywhere.
Yeah,
We're
dude. I
melting
mean,
pot.
I got my AC cranking and it still feels hot. My cats are trying to find the coolest spot in the house.
Yeah, hey,
But
if they
yeah,
make
it's
an appearance, they're allowed to make an appearance.
yeah,
Cats,
okay, cool.
animals, everybody, we love it. So it's
There we
good.
go.
But oh my gosh,
Nice. I
but
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I love it. I think was it 2 episodes ago? I think so. That's wasn't it, Justine? It was oh my gosh. Start today harm reduction.
Mm. Yeah.
And the cat came and at first they were
Nice.
like you could tell and I was like it's fine. You could have
Yeah.
cats. Like don't
Yeah.
worry. We could have animals here. We are animal friendly. Like people see my squirrel bench outside. I love animals.
Nice. There you
It's
go.
fun. Oh my God. Yeah, I
Everyone
don't
needs
have
a squirrel bench.
oh, they need it.
I
They're
like
yeah.
that.
That could be another like podcast about squirrels. But
Yeah, yeah. Let's have a whole podcast about squirrels. I like that idea.
oh my God, I love them. I have water outside for them because like
Oh,
it's
really?
hot. I'm like I have it on like a little paper
Wow.
plate. I'm like you
I love
guys
that.
are like my pets right now
Yeah.
because one day we'll get a dog, but right now you
Yeah.
are my pets. I'm
It's like a
saving you.
sanctuary. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, yes. Oh
I
my
like
gosh.
that.
But all right, Justine, you want to go ahead? We could get it going.
So we really love to start the pod, always trying to take it all the way back as young as we can get. We would really love to hear what your first memories of falling in love with music are.
Oh, well, so it's kind of like it's like a little roller coaster of like different genres and stuff. Because like growing up, my dad was a disco DJ in the 70s and 80s. And so when I was born, it was just a lot of like dance music, and a lot of that like 90s like dance music and stuff. Like when I was less than 10, just like getting the energy out there, feeling the vibes. And then when I got older, I had an older brother who was like 5 years older than me, so he was playing a lot of like Rage Against the Machine, System of a Down, Slipknot, so that was like my first kind of opening into the heavier kind of stuff. And like the music that I'm doing now. And he got me into 311. Honestly,
Mhm.
like 311 is one of my like, guilty pleasures because everyone loves to talk shit on 311,
I was
right?
just gonna say, yeah, a lot of people like to talk shit
Yeah.
about 311.
But I remember there was this show happening in Jersey. How old was I? I was like, it was 2003, so I must have been 13. So it was like my first like real concert, and it was over in Waterloo Village, over in Northwest New Jersey, in this field, and it was 311, G Love, and something corporate.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, so like something corporate, they were kind of coming up at that stage, and I had never heard of them, but like that was the first time seeing them with like an actual like upright piano, it wasn't a
Hmm.
keyboard. He was like out there doing his thing, and that was like my first kind of, I was like, whoa, like, I was like up front at the barricade and I was like 13. I was like, this is awesome, and I want to learn how to be up there, do something like this. I was already playing like drums a little bit, but I didn't really know what I was doing until that moment. And I think that was kind of what brought me into, being like, oh shit, this is cool.
Yeah, I mean, talk about yeah, 311 and then something corporate and just like even the bands you mentioned, like Rage Against the Machine, the System of a Down, things like that. Like I feel like it's wild on TikTok. Bands like Rage Against the Machine and System of a Down are getting that resurgence right now. Like
Yeah,
I see all
it's
these
crazy.
kids and I'm like, that's really cool because when I was little, like younger, that's what was around me and it was like, whoa, what is this? And now they're
Right.
experiencing that in a different way. Like, obviously, it was music videos for us, but like for
Right. Yeah.
them, it was
On
like,
TV.
what? Or radio too. Like, radio was huge for that, where I was like,
Yeah. Hearing stuff on the radio.
how are they playing
Yeah.
System of a Down on here? If they really listen to the lyrics, like, it's like, what is this?
Right.
And
Yeah, exactly.
wow, yeah. Oh, I can't imagine seeing something corporate though that I think I saw them, I didn't see them in their prime. I saw them,
Yeah, I mean, that was the only time I've seen them, and it was
yeah.
like crazy,
Oh, and I love Andrew McMahon,
Yeah,
but
he's great.
it's like something corporate always was my favorite. Like the Jack
Yeah.
stuff is cool, the
Yeah, I like
wilderness stuff,
Jax.
but it's like something corporate always was just it hit for me. Like
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
the wood.
special.
They were so great. And I just hear, like, I met him once too, the kindest
Oh, really? Yeah. Nice.
person. He waited outside for everybody.
Oh, no way.
He did like a free show in Chicago. It was at the
Hmm.
Beat Kitchen, and I think it was like a 300 cap room.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
And it was like a rate again, you had to listen to the radio because Jax was just coming out. And
Hmm.
he was like, all right, meet at this venue and line up, first come, first serve. So my friends and I all get in
Wow.
our car. We're like, we're gonna go, we're gonna meet him. We go and so many people are there.
Wow.
And we waited after. He took time for every single person there,
Oh, that's
signed
so
whatever you
awesome.
had. And I'm like, I never forgot that. And then like
Yeah.
friends of mine are huge fans. He's still the same way, I guess. Like, and that
Yeah,
to
that's
me, I was
awesome.
like, how many years ago? Like 20, what? Yeah, something corporate's got to be 20 something.
Yeah. I think they just went on like a 20-year
Oh, that's
anniversary
right.
thing.
And I missed that here in New Jersey that they played.
Yeah. And I'm actually speaking of all this, like Jack's Mannequins will be at Stone Pony Summer Stage on
Oh,
Thursday, and I think I'm gonna go check that out because I was just like, yeah, why not? It's
yeah.
just it's great. I'm
I
sure
wonder
it's
how I
good
missed
stuff.
that. I don't know who are
And
they playing
other
with?
I don't know, but I think it's like this big like long like month-long festival thing, the North of Shore
Oh, yeah,
that they're
yeah.
doing down there. And there's a lot of different performances. Like Shadow of the City thing is
Oh,
happening
that's right.
soon with Bleachers and Joyce Manor
Hmm.
and stuff like that, and that should be cool. But yeah, I like how Asbury is like, I mean, they've always had great shows, but like I feel like lately, post-pandemic, they've been bringing a lot of cool bills down there. Everything from the Lanes to the Wonder Bar to Stone Pony. It's been pretty cool
Oh,
to get back out there, and see these shows.
and that's something too. I was like, oh, I gotta touch on another Jersey band. Like, I feel like I've been so lucky. We're like, not to shade anyone back home. Nobody wants to come on. But the Jersey bands, like, it's like moving here and not knowing anyone or anything, going to like Asbury Park and like, oh, like again, like going to Asbury Lanes, like, which is the coolest venue ever. Like anyone
Yeah, it
listening
really
that
is
doesn't
awesome.
know, I think it was it Ellis Dunes recently? I think I saw them.
Yeah,
And
I was there. Yeah.
that
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't see you because
I
it's like
know.
not the biggest place.
No, it's so special, like being around there for you, obviously being from New Jersey, like what has that kind of done for you, whether it's in your music or just like being a part of something where you can go and see music like in all these iconic venues. I remember me living
Right,
so
yeah.
far away. It was like, I want to go to the Stone Pony.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jersey's cool because it's not only really Jersey. I mean, you got Philly that's
Hmm.
like right over the way. You got Brooklyn, Manhattan, and I mean, even Boston isn't too far away. It's kind of like a nice, the blend of like different cities that you can hit, if you want to drive a little bit. But there's always something happening, because of that. So that's why I'm just thankful that, I grew up in like North Jersey. I live kind of like central now. A lot of people debate if central even exists, but
Yeah, everybody
but
tells me when
I
I
think it
tell them
does.
I'm in Monmouth County, and so many people are like, it
Yeah.
doesn't exist. I'm like, to me, I moved here, it's Central Jersey. What do you call the
Right.
middle?
Yeah, exactly. But up in the north, it was like, when it was really popular in like 2005, 2006, when I was a teenager, it was, there were basement shows up there. But then eventually, when it stopped being cool, like for the masses, like, where everyone didn't want to be emo anymore, and it just kind of like shifted more south, and there weren't many people up doing music by me. So I kind of was, I was like, damn, like all my friends really stopped playing music. So when I was around like 19, 20, I was like, I'm just gonna move down to Montclair
Hmm.
because Montclair, there were a lot of these bands playing at this place called the Meat Locker. And if you live in New Jersey, you've probably heard of the Meat Locker.
Yeah.
As like just like it's been there for 30 years. It's been such an iconic venue for DIY bands, like a 75 cap. It's gone through ups and downs. The towns try to close it and stuff like that, and it's been through some shit, but it was always a hub of like just people, kids hanging out, listening to music, all genres of music. So I moved down to be closer to that, and just started playing in bands. And then it was like 15 years later, and you're just kind of like, oh, you're still doing it. I just
Hmm.
love the New Jersey scene because everyone seems to, it's just like the same kind of community. It's very small, as I'm sure many other music communities are the same way.
That's funny you bring up the meat locker because last week we had Ryan from that band Scary Hours on, and he was
Oh
like
yeah.
talking about the meat locker.
Hell
And
yeah.
I was like, I've seen videos of it. I've never been yet. And he was, I think he said something about like you have to take your medicine or something like that, or it's because the cough or something, because he was like, just be, but I was like, to me, those venues, listen, I'm sure other people, if they're not into that, would disagree. But to me, that's like a cool place because you know that like if you go there, you're going there to see the shows. You're going there, the
Yeah,
history in that room probably of that. I was
exactly.
like, I have to go see and experience this. And he did, and there was somebody else, like a long time, I forget who it was. But they just, oh, you must have been to the meat locker. I'm like, not yet. I haven't been out
Yeah.
there yet. I was
I
like,
mean, yeah, it's there's always shows happening there.
yeah.
But it's like other times it kind of it gets really crowded and sometimes it'll get dangerous and like, cops will show up and stuff like
Right.
that. But for the most part, I haven't really seen, much else than other people just like hanging out and having a good time. And it's cool. Like I'm in my 30s now, so I see we played the Meat Locker about a month ago, and just seeing like a lot of the younger kids, they're just going. They don't even know who's playing, and they're just going. And that to me,
Mhm.
I think is cool because I thought that that was going to be the opposite. I thought people like, you see online, it's like all these big bands, they get all this love. And then you think that people aren't discovering like small bands anymore. But I think, if you kind of look in the small communities, like it's still happening. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I will say too, as like someone that, gosh, I forget when did I move here? Gosh, it's been a couple years, but like for me, going from like the Chicago scene and that, and then moving here and then doing the podcast, the amount of support. And like I just noticed in the scene where it's like, yeah, I don't have that anymore for what I did back there. And like not to be rude to anyone I know from back there in Chicago,
Right, right.
but there was definitely like an ego to it where like here
Hmm.
it's like if I meet people in the scene or anything, they're some of the kindest, supportive, whether it's online or not, that it's like, wow. And again, like I know other people say
Right,
that there's still that kind of certain mentality within the scene that it always exists, but there's a lot of people that just want to lift each other up. And I said, I've
right.
seen that from the outside of where was I in? I was in Asbury, I think at the Berkeley Hotel, and I
Oh, cool.
saw they have like a new Berkeley backyard thing they just
Oh,
started.
sweet. Okay.
Um, I got to see
I didn't know that.
Roderick, and they're like what Keensburg, but they play like
Um,
Asbury everywhere.
oh, I know that band. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's funny because the guy that records us, he's had a band for like 15 years that he fronts. His name is Roderick.
Oh wow. Oh
And it's like
yes.
he's told me that they've talked to each other and like, yeah, yeah, we got the same name. And I don't think
Yes.
anyone's gonna change.
It's funny because when I was gonna have them on and was digging into them, like just like, oh, who is Broderick? The other guy was popping up. And I was like, wait, let me
Yeah.
make sure and not get this wrong. And I'm on
Yeah,
with them
yeah.
talking about this. And I
It's
remember I
funny.
went to the show and there weren't that many people there. And I was like kind of really bummed out for them because
Mm,
I was like, where is it? It's a Saturday night. It's Asbury
right.
Park. And, in talking to Roderick, they were kind of like, it's hard. A lot of people maybe don't go to shows as much. They do and don't, but it depends on the area. Asbury's really finicky sometimes,
It
especially
can
if there's
be,
a
yeah.
bigger band playing and,
Right.
and that like kind of broke me a little bit where I'm like, oh, do we need to bring like street teams back or like what do we need to do? Because
Maybe. Yeah,
like
honestly.
go to shows because everyone says like I love to like what you were saying where kids just show up like you could probably discover all these videos they see of like Blink early in the day or
Right.
and they're like hey I wish I was there. Well,
He could be, yeah.
you could be. You don't know. I mean, again, some people make, oh, they won't be the next Blink, but
Right. You never know.
whoever, you never know. And I think you got to support. Like that's the only thing about TikTok too. Is like it's great to support on there, but you have to support like in person.
Right, exactly. I think face to face will never, super I mean, like being online will never supersede face to face because I feel like, that just like genuine connection is just what humans, that's what we seek. And I mean, I hope that never goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, because you hear so much of that, especially like your band, I feel for me right away, I was like, I love balance and composure. I love things like that. So when I heard your band, I think it was TikTok, honestly. Like as much as I'm
Yeah.
shading TikTok, that's how I found half the
Yeah.
people. But I'm
Yeah,
on
it's a good
there.
tool.
It is. And like for one of
Mhm.
those things of like I heard it And I was like, it just reminds me of like music, like if it wasn't so hot. I'd want to lay in my grass and just like have on my headphones and listen to you and absorb all the sounds. For you, what bands really inspired the sound of your band?
Um, well, you got a few different ones. I'd say, you did mention Balance Composure, and I'd
Yeah.
say at the start of this band, it was kind of just like it was me and Michelle, the lead guitarist, and she also sings. We kind of like started this, and she pushed me to start it. We just loved like Balance and Title Fight and Basement, and we used to go to like Balance shows. I remember like first times we were hanging out, we went to see Balance at St. Vitus in Brooklyn way back. It must have been like, I don't know, like 2016 or something at this point. Rest in peace, St. Vitus, honestly, because I think
Mhm.
I just heard they closed, which fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like Balance, Title Fight, that kind of thing. But we just our newer bassist, he's been our bassist for about 2 years. So since that point, we've kind of been shifting into this darker mode because he's into bands like Loathe and
Mhm.
things like that. And we're just kind of, I like to think we're well-rounded, but I think that balance and that kind of grungy catharsis kind of comes out of us, whether I like it or not.
No, I love that. I love that because I feel like I've said for a while, I feel like music, whether it's on TikTok or locally, a lot of it is like pop punk centered and it's like gotten really oversaturated. So when I hear a band
Yeah,
like yours and other music like that I'll have on, I'm like, that's why it's gravitating because I want that. I want something where, and again, no one kill me if they're listening to this, but like it reminds me of like Nirvana in that way of like there's imperfections in it that make it perfect.
right.
So it's like that's how I
I
feel
feel
like
that.
with your band, where it's like, yeah, maybe someone would listen to it and be like, oh, well, that's maybe turned up or the vocal in there. But that's what gravitates, at least me musically. And those little sounds you'll hear, especially if you have your headphones in. Like I always
Right.
recommend people listen with your
Yeah,
headphones.
I like
There's
that.
so many cool things, especially in your music. So it's like I can hear the title fight for sure. But again, your own sound. Because I think so many people might hear that
Thanks.
and be like, I don't like that band. I don't like.
Right,
And I'm
right.
not saying it's like copy and paste
No, but
of those.
you definitely just like you get influenced heavily, especially when you're listening to a lot of the same stuff. And I'm not gonna say we sat down and we're like, all right, let's make a title fight sounding band.
Yeah.
But it's just as we play, it's just I don't know, it's just like it happens, and we try to have that own sense of self, because that's
Mhm.
important, I think, with the band. Like you just as soon as you hear a certain band, you're just like, oh yeah, that's them, which I like.
Mhm.
I could do that with Balance. I could do that with Title Fight. I could do that with 311.
Yeah.
You know.
I still love the 311 aspect because back in the day, I loved, like, obviously, again, all right, someone's going to say it's cliche, but Amber, like, I love that song.
Yeah,
And
it's a
it's
good
not
song.
even just the lyrics, it's like musically. I'm like, I love the way it's set up. It sounds, but again, people don't want to say, like, oh, you like 311 because
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
they're like the new, well, they're not the new Nickelback, but I think like people
But they
can
get
sound,
loved in that. Yeah.
and it sucks. So that's
Yeah.
cool to hear again, like all the backgrounds you've had, and then what your band sounds like now. And like now it's almost like, oh, can I go back and see like, is there maybe any way there's like a 311 like nod in here of like maybe not intentionally, but just
Yeah.
based off of that. I'm like, now I got to go back and look and listen and be like, hey, is there
Yeah,
that's what
maybe.
I always love to do. I always love to go back when someone's on and like, can I hear anything?
Yeah.
Maybe not, baby, we'll
Maybe
see.
lyrically, I don't know. I've always been fascinated with the 311 lyrics, but
Mhm.
I feel like it's hard to with the music that we're making to sound like anything 311 does,
For
with
sure.
the tropical sunset
Yeah.
sounding guitars,
Yeah, no.
you know.
Yeah, and someone's gonna torture me on that. They're gonna be like, why
Yeah,
are you saying 311? Get out. We want to bring some 311 love
yeah.
here. And
Of course.
obviously too, like it's what's so like the timing of this is like our music and mental health. Obviously, your latest
Right.
song, See You in My Dreams, when I heard you talk about it on TikTok, I was like, okay, like this is so great to touch on because grief
Hmm.
is something so real that a lot of people
Yeah.
experience. They don't it's hard on people watching someone go through it, being the person going through it. And like before we kind of get into the song and what you feel comfortable with, like
Mhm.
how are you doing right now with that? Like, are you doing okay with that?
Yeah. Um, I think, it was a tough year. But just like, I lost my friend and, had the funeral and all that, and then going into the hospital segment of my life, it was like, oh fuck, like this is not good. And, it was kind of just like a wake up call to an extent, like that could be me, and going through all of those kinds of thoughts, it was difficult. But, right now I think like making these songs, like there were three songs so we're about to release another single on Wednesday. It's called Might Die, and it's another song about like the hospital, losing my friend, and then we have another single that we're gonna release in September that has to do with it to kind of like tie it all together. But just like writing these three songs, honestly, it's like it's crazy how music can do that. It was just such a like a cathartic thing to write them and then perform them and then just like hear it kind of out on paper. Well,
Mm.
metaphorical paper
Yeah.
and just you know be like, all right, it's out of me. I could kind of move forward a little bit. I've had that cathartic release, and now I could just kind of compartmentalize and move past it in my own ways. And that's the best you can do. They say time heals all wounds, right? But I don't know, I just think you just learn to live with it and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
just it's weird. It's just a weird thing. But yeah, we do our best.
Yeah, I feel like it's too, they always say too, time heals all, but me, my stepdad passed a while ago. It was like
Sorry.
2011, and
Hmm.
I still feel it. Like on the day that he passed, I get really, because he was like my dad, like in so many ways. So, like for
Right.
me, it was like, listen, that was 2011. We're now 2025. Every that time, or like his birthday's coming up. So it's like I feel like a weird feeling, and it's like, hey, it's been that long. Like
Yeah.
grief is one of those things, like I feel like it stays with you, and it can represent like whether it's a smell or a song or
Yeah. The senses are crazy.
it's so difficult. Like that's why I can't, when I listened to the song and heard you speak on it, it was like, man, this is one I'm glad I get to showcase it on here and pull someone to it, because it's like we've all experienced those feelings in some way. And
Mhm.
I can't imagine again like writing it, having it out, then performing it. And I just had someone on that said that you almost, when you perform those songs, you have to protect yourself in a way, because you're almost like reopening that wound sometimes when
Yeah, it's true.
you have that. And it's like I never thought about that. Like do you,
Hmm.
so do you feel in a way like having the song has brought, I mean obviously like it has brought some comfort, but
Hmm.
did it reopen some things for you?
Um, I think that it has. I mean, totally. That is a very valid thing when you're doing something like this.
Yeah.
Um, and like we just finished tracking the third song, to tie it all in, and you know, I was just like embarrassed, like to even like yell these words in front of my band and one of my best friends who records us, just because of how like revealing and you know just personal it is. And so like I was like, hey, can you just like mix these a little lower, like
Hmm.
just like, can you just put a lot of reverb on them? But then as we listened to like the first mix, and I'm like, listen, bring up the vocals. Like I do want to hear what's being said. I was just embarrassed because it is just like you're ripping off a band-aid, and you get that like that drop in your stomach where you're like, that feeling, and you're like,
Hmm.
damn, but
Hmm.
I feel like that is like the last kind of bit of that purge in order to like kind of get past it and get better, at least for me. So it kind of gets worse before it gets better, sort of thing.
And do you feel too, oh gosh, they're gonna kill me. I think it was when I had crossing eyes, dotting T's. It's been a hot minute since I had them on, but I
Oh,
know
nice.
Matt. how he said he got into music because of the passing of his cousin and that
Hmm.
connection to music. And it was almost like he felt like a part of his cousin was with him. Do you
Yeah,
feel that way, sort of like by having this song and going through those
totally.
emotions to have like there's a piece of them still with you?
Yeah, because I mean, my friend who passed away was like the vocalist in I had a metalcore band when I
Mhm.
was, 19, 20. And he was the vocalist there. And, he's always wanted to do music, but he just kind of like, the course of his life just like went away from it. And when I kind of went towards it more, but I feel like, it did bring me a little bit closer to him. Like we had a moment, we just released the See You in My Dreams single, and my friend had moved up to like around like Stamford, Connecticut, like that area, and we were playing a show like on the anniversary, like a day after his birthday, a year after he passed.
Mhm.
And we were playing that song, and like as I was playing the song, I was kind of like realizing this, and I was like, man, and then like in that moment, I'm like, I felt like so close still, and it's almost like a blanket of comfort a little bit, that like you have for that for moments like that. So yeah, I think totally definitely made me a little bit closer
Because I know
to
for
him,
me as a listener, I have songs that I feel close. Like for me, when my grandfather passed away, he loved like, Blinded by the Light. That was like his song
Hell
forever.
yeah.
And there was so many moments in my life. It's a weird, eerie thing, but there's so many moments in my life where I've just been going through it and like I'd hardly will listen to the radio, but when I did a few times, it'll be on. And I'm
Right.
almost like it stops in my tracks of like, oh my God, like it's still, and
Yeah.
it's okay, well that's my part with them and as the
Hmm.
listener. So I always wondered like if the writer of the music has to somehow feel that. And it's interesting because like that's for you in your way, but if someone else listens to that and they've went through something similar, they can really resonate with that. And I think
Yeah.
that's really beautiful about music that like what you wrote about, but like I could feel tinges of it. I know a few friends going through similar grief stages right now, and I'm like, if they were to listen
Hmm.
to that, they would feel that way too. And I think
Yeah.
that's really beautiful about music.
Yeah, it really is. Music has saved a lot of lives, I say, in that way, for
And
sure.
that's the one thing when I know Justine, when we were talking to Anthony, we'll always tell him like, oh, his music saved us or saved so and so because it has. But he's always quick to tell us like it's not mine. It's
Hmm.
music. And I'm like, I
Right.
guess I never thought of that. I just associated like the musician, like that's theirs. But at the end of the day, it's like the collective of just like the power of music.
Right.
And I'm like, I always labeled it of, oh, that's theirs.
Right.
That's
Yeah, it's
who it
not very
is.
possessive. It's like pretty, that's just for everybody, which is the cool thing.
I always felt weird when we got lucky enough to have him on and I talked to him and we were saying that he's like, but it's not mine. I love it. It's always going to be there for you guys, but it's
Right.
not mine. I was like, oh man, I hope I didn't just like offend in
No,
some
I'm sure you
way.
did. Yeah, but
But
that's pretty unselfish to say, because I think a lot of musicians feel differently. I've heard a lot of musicians say like, "Oh yeah, no, this is mine. It's not for anybody else." You know what I mean? So I think coming from that approach, it's pretty admirable, and it's a good way to look at it.
And I think that's why I commend people like where I can put my emotions into something, but not musically. And it's when I get to hear like maybe what I can't process in words in a song, I'm like, okay, like there's a reason why people like yourself and other people are creating the music for people like, whether it's Justine and I, we don't, I mean, I know Justine when she was younger had a musical background. Me, not so much. I
Nice.
can't do anything.
I'm sure if you tried.
Oh, we've we have a guitar sitting in this corner that
Yeah,
is still
dude.
sitting there. I've tried, I can't,
Right, right.
but I think
I
it's
feel
such a
that.
beautiful outlet to have for emotions is
Hmm.
music because whether you're the listener, you're the writer, or you're just someone that loves a sound. Like there's something for that to process an emotion. Like I think of even video games, right? You hear a certain
Yeah.
emotion, like you hear certain music where it's like my fiance loves Final Fantasy. So when they play that
Oh, hell
music,
yeah.
he's like the Sephiroth theme or whatever. There's like a thing to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like you can feel these emotions and he
Hmm.
feels that through that music where like, I'm more of like the music, like in a sense of like that we all love anyone listening to this podcast, but like him, he does
Right.
it through video game music and processes
Right.
that, which is
I
like, I
mean,
never even thought of that.
yeah, it still sounds and like rearranging your brain. Yeah, it's crazy that, sometimes I could hear just one chord
Hmm.
and just hear the little bit of a rasp of a voice and I got tears falling down my face. You know what I mean? It's just like also how like, music, like how you're saying music smells and all that stuff, how that like works in harmony together, where it just like plays on your emotions like so hard. It's just a crazy phenomenon, that
Yeah.
we're lucky to experience.
That's such a good way to put it that we're lucky because I think a lot of us don't realize that how lucky we are to experience that and just to, like I was just on this trivia night and it sounds so silly, but they asked, would you rather be blind in at a show and not be able to see, or not be able to hear? Um, and
Wow.
immediately all of us were like, but like at a show. And I said, I would immediately, one, I mean, I wear glasses. I'm already partially blind. So, you know what? Like, I'll take, but I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, I would always want to be able to hear because no matter what, I can
Yeah,
process that emotion through just hearing it. And I
right.
think that's, as silly as the trivia question was, it got me to think about like how
That is a
we
brain scratcher for sure.
love music. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is just a simple trivia question, but it like just shows the meaning of like different people also said, no, I'd want to be able to see it because I want to see the instrument being played and I could be able to figure it out from seeing it. And I was like,
Hmm.
that's an interesting take. Like we're all just talking about
Yeah,
music and like what we can feel from music. So
right.
I don't
That's
know. I
wild.
I know what I said, but I don't know. Maybe I
Yeah,
changed my
yeah.
mind, but
Yeah, who knows?
oh, it's wild. And I know too, if anyone is, I guess, I know you're not an expert or none of us are, but if they're going through some kind of grief process right now, was there anything besides music that worked for you and your mental health to sort of process that? Or would you think it was just solely music was that outlet to help process?
I think music was a huge, huge part of it. But also I just think healthy relationships in your life, healthy habits, I think it's also easy in these moments to rely on a lot of the vices that a lot of people like, like drugs,
Hmm.
alcohol, all that kind of stuff, cigarettes,
Yeah.
what have you. Which, I've had my fair share of issues with. But I think just developing healthy relationships, and if you're in unhealthy relationships, setting the boundaries to, get yourself in a better like headspace, because especially when you're grieving and your life is it's easy to fall fast when you're grieving and like you feel like everything's against you, but if you kind of work on your life one thing after another and just focus on something else other than the act of burying your friend into the ground, like I think it just gets better with time, and also just talking about it with other people that knew who you're grieving, I think,
Hmm.
and talk about memories, and like you're not talking about it in such a bad way. You're talking about it just like remembering, I think also helped, like talking to his brother and stuff like that. It definitely helped me. But yeah, other than that, I think a culmination of those things was the ticket for me.
I know a lot of people sometimes, I know when I've experienced it, either some people don't want to talk about it because they feel like that's better, like, or don't talk about the person that passed away because it's like, okay. Then some people want to because they want to keep the memory alive. And it's always
Right.
like the balance of the people around you and what works and what works for you, right? Because I
Hmm.
find for me, like, celebrating the people, like my stepdad is one. I always celebrate. He was a big like Philly cheesesteak guy. So on that day, I celebrate that and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things you can do to sort of because I'm a big believer in keeping people's memories alive. I know everyone's different. I don't want to speak for anyone going through that if they're listening to that, but
Mhm.
um And I think that's what you're doing with See You in My Dreams. Like that's going to be there forever. You know, that's
Yeah,
out there
etched in
forever.
stone.
And I
Yeah,
think
which is cool.
that's it's just such a beautiful way to have that. And I know, although I'm sure, like you said, it was difficult to process and difficult to put that pen to paper and probably even to listen to it at times. You know, I would be if it ever came on a shuffle or you had to listen to it again, like while you're mixing or some things like that, it's difficult.
Right.
But I think it's just such a beautiful way to have like honor who they were and I can't imagine what you've been through, even that you can sit here and talk about it. Like I appreciate that because I'm sure
Of
it's not
course.
easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but like I said, it's just with everything I've been through, it's just
Yeah.
like, talking about it is the least of it. I'm happy to talk about it just because I'm out on the other side, It's not like I am still going through it. I mean, I'm still going through some things here and there, but like as
Yeah.
everyone is at all times. But it's just I've been playing shows and that's also keeps your spirits high and I'm just happy that I'm not stuck in a hospital anymore.
Oh, yeah, I can't. Again, that alone too, right? Like
Yeah.
be not being stuck in the hospital, you get to get out and do that and play music for people that again, I see in videos, like people are definitely resonating with your music and they're in it, like in that
Well,
crowd.
thanks.
Like I'm like, you can tell like they're in it and feeling it. Where again, it's a band. I'm like, I have to now go see you guys play because I need to hear I've heard it in headphones. I've heard it like when I listen to it in Spotify and okay, no, don't shoot me, guys. Sometimes I do Spotify, I have Apple Music too.
Yeah.
Don't shoot me now. But I'm a big believer too in like Bandcamp and stuff. So anyone else will say I do Bandcamp Fridays. All right,
Yeah,
like
we're on there.
yeah. So it's like, listen. But I think it just is, I love to see it. I love to see there's a band like you out there that is
Thank
creating
you.
this music that makes people feel, and again, sometimes you do love the generic pop punk. Let me just put it on. But like,
Yeah, of course.
sometimes you do want to feel this stuff and to process, even the difficult, like See You in My Dreams, that is difficult subject matter, but maybe it'll help you process it. So again, that's why I was like, this is perfect for what we're doing and what we like in this music. So
Yeah, the second I, was aware of you guys and like mental health and music, I was like, oh, that's right up my alley, because that's all I talk about, you
yeah,
know.
right. You go in, I'm just like, oh man. And then again, it just aligned when you release this song where I was like, okay, we can hone in. But there's a lot more that
Nice.
people, if you're listening, like I will tag them. They're just, I think it's really great. And as you said, you have songs coming up that are coming
Thanks.
out,
Yeah.
which is really, really cool. But like anything else you can share, I know July 12th, there's a show coming up in Jersey City, but
Yeah.
anything else you're really excited for this year for your band that maybe you can talk about?
Well, we are booking some cool like tours and stuff like that. Historically we haven't really been on much far kind of treks playing shows. So like we're working on getting out to Chicago, maybe down south. So that's interesting and fun to kind of book. It's frustrating and and stuff too, but it's definitely more fun to kind of look forward to that with the new music that we have. I'm just really excited for people to hear this new stuff because it's like it's the most I've ever like we've ever poured into anything we've ever done. So just that with the shows, I think it's going to be a good finish to the year for sure.
Oh, I'm glad I'm ready to hear it because I've been like ever since I found you guys and like was taking a listen and again I'm like yeah like I we need more of this like and I'm not just
Thanks.
gassing you up because you're here like I literally I was like
Yeah.
and then honestly like the other day I was like looking on Instagram like who do I know that follows and a lot of the people that I know would be into your band, they already do. And I'm like, all right,
Oh,
then we're on
really?
the right
Nice.
path. Like,
That's good
you
to hear.
know, like I even
Yeah,
saw
yeah, yeah.
Matt Batiste is, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
I've
all
been
right,
talking. We were talking to him. He's awesome. I love
oh,
what he's doing. For the emo music, stuff like
oh
that.
my gosh, yeah, he's,
Good man.
oh, I will shout from the rooftops about him forever. When we were starting out and we're still small, but like we're getting there. But like
Yeah, of course.
I reached out just to be like, hey, would you want to come on? Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I want to come on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from there is given so much advice like,
Hmm.
hey, you have a good show, you have good this, why don't you try this? Or here's how I edit, here's what I do, and like
Right.
literally things that like, not that it's gatekeepy, but some people are in podcasting and music,
Yeah,
everything. Immediately was like, how can I help? What can I do to
right.
help? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, you are 100% who you kind of, I guess, are perceived to be. Like, you are that good guy. And
Right, yeah.
I could shout from the rooftops like forever. And
Yeah, we need more people like that.
oh, I had the 100%. And I
Yeah.
mean, oh my gosh, yeah, this has just been so great, like chatting and
Yeah, for sure. I'm so happy we got to do
everything.
this. We'll be down the shore, like more south, central soon too. So, no, don't sweat it, but I'd love to
Awesome.
see you out at a show for sure.
And all right, guys, that was our conversation with Pete Clark of Palomino. Again, it was such a great conversation for me because it's so cool when I get to interact with people and meet people that are here in New Jersey because I think I love to boost people from the state. I love to boost up all bands, but there's just something special about when you know they're also from New Jersey. So I think that'll always be instilled in me from like what I used to do back in Illinois. But I appreciated the honesty and vulnerability in Pete talking about grief. And I think a lot of people that have gone through it, I think can really relate to his feelings and also check out their song, See You in My Dreams, because I think it's really a powerful song. Might Die, now that I've heard it, I think it just means a lot more after you hear Pete talk about the song itself. So please go check them out. All links below, all that good stuff. Also, just a little disclaimer, if you did not hear Justine a lot on this one and you've heard her on previous ones, much like myself, you heard me, I wasn't feeling 100% myself. Justine was not as well. And she, when given the option, if she wanted to do this, she wanted to do this, she wanted to meet Pete and hear his story. And unfortunately, that meant we didn't hear her as much. I always want to be transparent in that if you don't hear Justine, that is why. I know so many of you love what she has to say, as do I. So that is why you did not hear her a lot on this one. So a heads up if that ever happens again. That is why. So I wanted to get that out there with her permission, of course, because she said she would like people to know. Because on the last one, you heard Justine, and they're like, "Wait, where did she go?" That is what happened. As for our show, if you would like to support us as an independent podcast, a follow, a subscribe would mean the world, as well as a positive rating and review. It goes such a long way. I know every podcast says it. That is why it goes such a long way. We appreciate you so much, and we will see you guys next time. All right, bye, guys.